We can be most effective when we are engaged in the political process, and there's no time like the present. One of our main goals is effective advocacy through active participation from you. Those who stand for nothing will fall for anything. Our efforts to keep you engaged and informed as to the importance of current events happening locally and abroad started 2 years ago. Our number one goal is to make a difference. We need you. Join us at the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass.
It's time to take back control of our society. Today's world requires an open and honest discussion about the current events. On the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, our goal is to engage people from different walks of life into a healthy discussion, creating a positive outcome. When it comes to global events, tune in to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass on Monday nights at 7:30. We don't just listen to the news, we bring you the news. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass. We are honored to have you as a guest tonight and want to thank each of you for your faithful support. Without further delay, allow me to introduce to you Mr. Baron Glass. Mr. Glass, take it away.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass, Monday night's edition, Monday night's broadcast, Monday night's discussion. Tonight we'll talk candidly about the upcoming presidential election. And for the past 4, 5, or 6 months, we've talked about just about everything that one could talk about. We've even talked about some things that mainstream media, they wouldn't even touch. Tonight we're going to talk about Trump, Hillary, or Bernie. Who would be in the best position to fight for the rights of women and minorities? Again, Trump, Hillary, or Bernie? Who would be in the best position to fight for the rights of women and minorities? Well, it's a pretty good question, I think. Pretty good topic, I think. Why? Because when you look at civil rights, when you look at social justice, when you look at equal rights, when you look at women's rights and all of those other rights that are afforded to us by the Constitution of the United States, we see that a little less than 90 some odd years ago, women had the right to cast a vote. We see that as a result of the Voting Rights Act, people of color had the opportunity to vote. Then when we fast forward to 2016, we find ourselves fighting for the same issues, the same rights that people were fighting back 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years ago, a century ago. We're still fighting the same battle. So since we have a unique situation with 3 individual candidates, and it is assumed and presumed and discussed in a lot of conversations that if there was ever a time, if there was ever a better time or the best time to form other political, different types of political organizations, such as Democrat and Republican, Democratic Party and the Republican Party, now is the best time in pretty much the history of our existence of voting. We have Donald Trump, who is a far, far, far extreme individual candidate. It appears or seems that everything that United We Stand is supposed to stand for, he is on the opposite side. When we look at Hillary, Some said that she does not know what position she's going to take until she's actually faced with a question that allows her to say whatever it is that she can say to gain those particular votes. Then we look at this individual called Bernie Sanders, who has been in the United States Senate, United States Congress, elected in some capacity for the past 30 years. We see that this guy has created a movement for what we now call the millennials. Back during the 40s, 50s, 60s, we had what we call the baby boomers. And now the baby boomers seems to have fallen off or fallen off. Now they're represented by a different trademark, a different political group of people which are now known as the millennials. So tonight we're just going to talk about these particular candidates and which one, in anyone's opinion, as to who would best benefit or be in the best position, once again, to fight for the rights of women and minorities. So, I know that Deb is out there. Deb, if you don't mind, I'm going to give you a minute to come off the mute button and say good afternoon, and let's get into the discussion. And we should be joined by, hopefully, the other individuals that join us on a nightly basis, Dave Lamont, Aaron Hopkins, and Miss Nikki Bedrick. Deb, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing just fine, Darren. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Deb, I know you heard that long intro. Let me ask you this, just start right off. I mentioned that some of the same issues that we have been fighting for, we being people from all walks of life back years ago, they've been fighting for those, just those civil liberties, just those rights, those freedoms, all of those things that should have been afforded by the Constitution of the United States. Fast forward to 2016. Why do you think that we are still fighting for the same rights, the same causes, the same issues that we were 50, 60, 70 on through 100 years ago? Talk to me, Deb.
Well, I kind of think, I think we got a really good start on things during the 60s, early 70s. And I think we were kind of headed in the right direction, and I really kind of think that some of the people, I'm like a Gen Xer. I'm just like on the edge of baby boomer and Gen Xer. My siblings are baby boomers. Mm-hmm. But I think that there was a point in there where we kind of thought, well, we finally got it motivating in the right direction, and it'll just keep catapulting itself that direction. Mm-hmm. At least for a short period of time, we were thinking that. And everybody let down their guards. Mm-hmm. And it didn't happen. It didn't continue on like we thought. And then we had, we started getting in different presidents and things that started doing the war on drugs, Reagan with the war on drugs, and then Bill Clinton got in there with his crime bill that was obviously a disaster. And I think people just got lax and they really weren't paying attention to what was happening.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if we, fast forward to now, when the millennials have to deal with all of these rights, including affordable care, including Medicare, Medicaid, including all of these other liberties or freedoms or privileges that have been given. If we go back and look in that era when you had protesting going on, you had contesting going on, you had stage outs, you had boycotting, you had all of those things. But before we get off into Trump, Hillary, or Bernie, I'm trying to just create a basis. What is it that because history seems to be depleted or denied or somewhat hidden. So how do we get these newcomers, these millennials, to actually know how to go out and fight for these causes, not from a physical standpoint, but just from an educational standpoint, from a social justice standpoint? How do we make the timeline to appear to where people from the old and the new can understand, and we can move forward to join hands and allow everybody to actually fight for these causes? How do you think we can go about that?
Well, as far as the older generations, I think you're going to have a segment of those that are just going to be stuck where they are. And that's regardless of race or economics or anything else. I think they're just stuck in a time warp right there. But I think there's people like you and I, and our friends that are on here. I know I'm making connections with a lot of millennials right now through Bernie Sanders' campaign, and I think what we're getting ready to see is that Bernie Sanders has kind of ignited a fire in some of the later Gen Xers and definitely in the millennials. And they're even reaching out to the older generation right now, to us. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to start seeing, we're seeing them pull together. They're finding their voices. They're beginning to rally. They did the March on Washington, a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. We've seen them. We did a protest 2 weeks ago, and I helped out with a bunch of young college students down here in Missouri. We protested Rick Schaefer, who is running for Republican governor, and he's against women's rights, wanting them to give over names of women who have had abortions. We joined together down here and protested down here. So it's happening. It's already happening in pockets. I think Bernie has ignited that. Thing is we got to keep it going. Mm-hmm. Keep talking to them, keep presenting these opportunities for them to go out and have their voices heard, set up events and things like that, and go, come join us.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we know that Dave Lamont said last week that it appears that there are three different attributes that, so to speak, following Bernie. We have the man himself. We have the message that he is actually trying to implement. And then we have the movement. So if we try to tie all of this into one, if Bernie does not prevail, the man, how do we get it to where his message, and as a result of that message, the movement actually continues? Because what we don't want is for all of these people who are actually involved in the election process or the electoral process as of right now. How do we keep it to where the message and the movement continues to move forward to continue to push, if it be Secretary of State, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton? How do we get it to where the millennials, along with the man, the message, and the movement, continue to be a driving force, so to speak, into Hillary's platform to move her from where she's at, flip-flopping, to where she needs to be, which is where the vast majority of the progressive caucuses are coming from? Do you have any idea or any comment relative to how we can do this for conversation purposes?
Yeah, actually, we're in the process of doing that right here. I don't know, not all your listeners may know it, but as a delegate, I'm a delegate for Bernie Sanders at the state level. And we're already, and many of our delegates, I'm probably one of the oldest delegates there are. Most of our delegates are actually young people. Mm-hmm. And we're already we're hooking up with people across the United States that are other delegates, and we're putting together platforms to take to the convention, the Democratic convention, mm-hmm. and I believe it's June. And almost everything I see people putting together to take to the convention are Bernie's ideas. And they're going, even if Bernie doesn't win it, we're going to take those to the convention and say, this is what our platform needs to be now. This is a new generation. We're the people that's behind you. We're the people that we are the new Democratic Party. And either you're going to reform this and make it what we want, or we're going to go off and form our own party. And I think you said something about that earlier. You are right. We are a optimal time right now to form a third party and have a third party that will work in this country.
Right, Deb. Belinda says that Bernie's staff, which I follow, but it's a limit. Bernie's staff is getting ready to put more people in Congress like him. How is that possible? Because I suggested this the other night to where if there is in fact a movement, then the movement has more power by putting more people in Congress and the Senate, because that's where all the control comes in, and they're the ones who can drive the president one way or the other. So if we look at what Belinda just stated, do you feel like that is something that the millennials would go for, and in fact, are they ready themselves to get out there in the political process and not just become involved by canvassing, poll watching, picking up the phone, but actually getting involved, running for office, and developing their own platform regarding the Progressive Caucus?
I think they will. I'm seeing it in some of our young people around here, outside of in Columbia, Missouri area, and St. Louis. I kind of follow a bunch of people here, and I see them moving towards that direction. They're excited. They're excited to go to the convention this year, and through this, they are actually already putting together a platform, whether they realize it's their own or not. They really are already doing it. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to get to Philadelphia, and they're going to be ignited. And they're going to start looking at this more seriously as, hey, if I can do this, I could run for office. I mean, I was looking at it that way, too, there for a while. Now, you said something about also, now specifically to Belinda's comment, is that Bernie's staff was getting ready to put more people in Congress. There is actually a website out there called berniecrats.org that people across the country, the millennials and people across the country, have put out names of people in their state, on their particular state. And it's a list of people that are Bernie Krats within their state. And they're starting to advertise it so that people will know that these people are out there and that they need to be voting for them to get them into office this year. I truly believe that we're going to, whether Bernie's in there, whether Hillary's in there, or even whether Trump's in there, I think you're going to see Congress overturned this year, and it's going to be taken back by Democrats.
So Deb, did you say that it's berniecrat.org?
Yeah, it's I believe that is right. If you Google Bernie Kratz, it will come right up.
Okay, and the reason why I'm double fact checking it, because I want to make sure that it's posted out there on the live link, because once again, you want to make sure that let me back up. It's one thing to have the emotions involved in moving forward, but we've watched for a while to where emotions exist, and then when the event or events are over with, those emotions die down. And it's not that I have a lack of trust in these millennials. My issue is that based on the experiences in the past or of the past, this is what happens. So I guess what I'm trying to do is see if anybody can draw a distinction between why it's going to be better now with people staying involved with the movement versus the way it has been in the past for the last 10, 20, or 30 some odd years. So Deb, I know that you guys specifically are doing a lot. So let's get to the heart of the matter. Trump, Hillary, or Bernie? Who do you think would be in the best position to fight for the rights of women and minorities. And let's kind of talk about it one by one. The others are going to join in hopefully at some point in time. But let's take Trump. We'll start with him. Why would he be in the best position, or why wouldn't he be in the best position, in your own opinion, as to why he wouldn't be good to fight for the rights of women and minorities as a whole?
Well, if we're starting with Trump, I don't think he's going to be in our best interest at all for either women or minorities.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, he's prejudiced to the core. We all know that. Nobody can be that prejudiced and fight for anybody's rights. He is disrespectful, completely and totally disrespectful of women on every level, and to almost disgusting, to a disgusting level.
Mm-hmm.
Willing to say anything that even comes to his mind. I don't see him helping anybody.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this, Deb. In your opinion, and this amazes me, for you to say it, for me to recognize it and acknowledge it. How does this guy have so much support if, in fact, he is who you say he is?
Well, for one thing, you have to take into account that his support, they put those numbers up there. It's very deceiving, I think. And I don't ever hear anybody bring this out. Because your Republican Party is only 20%, I believe it's 27% of voters. That's 27%. So the few people that aren't supporting him is less than 27%.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when they put the numbers out there, it's like, oh, well, he's got 50% or 60, 70% of this group supporting him. Well, yeah, that's 60% of 27%.
Mm-hmm.
So the numbers aren't as big as they make it appear.
Okay, so
first of all,
what you're saying, and I'm glad that you brought that point out, and I hope that you can post it at some point. And I'll repost it. So, are you saying that once again, mainstream media is doing what they always do, which is distort the message and divide the people?
Oh, absolutely.
So, Deb, as far as Trump goes, I don't know that they intend to do it on purpose, because I don't think they want him in office any more than anybody else does. So, why would they give him all of this free airtime? And now, everybody wants to come out and pretty much talk against. Of course, we know Paul Ryan is saying some things. We know that Mary Madeline is saying a few things. Of course, sillified Sarah Palin is out there just amping this guy up. I'm trying to figure out if we're talking about this country, united we stand, divided we fall. How can we be, or how can this guy 26%, 27%, or whatever percentage is? Is it that much, that amount of people still in this country that really wants to be segregated and feel that integration was a negative thing, Deb, in your opinion?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think the reason he's such a hot topic is strictly because of ratings and money. And I think that's all it has to do with it. Even people that aren't for him will watch just to see what he's got to say next. The best thing that the people could have done through this and through his campaign, his primary campaign, was to shut those TVs off and let the media know what we thought about him showing so much of him.
Right. But
that's what they were doing. They're just drawing in viewers.
Right. But now that they've created this monster or this devil or whatever it is that we choose to call him, it seems as if now, Deb, he's like a wildfire. Okay, and this guy is close to being the nominee, headed down the path to becoming, potentially the president. Because in my opinion, should Hillary prevail, it's going to be, I don't think she's going to be able to handle this guy. And again, that's why, my concern is that regardless as to whether it's Bernie or Hillary, are we in fact, are we wasting time with, each other rather than focusing on him? Because if you're looking at June, then we're talking about July, August, September, October, November. We're looking at basically 5 months. I'm not sure that, and because I've watched this guy, and he feeds off of negativity. And if you're trying to be positive and you come across as being negative, then you're going to look basically a totally opposite of what you should. So I guess what I'm asking is, what is it that the millennials, along with all of these progressive moving people, what is it that we can do to come to terms and come to the table, recognize, acknowledge, and realize that at some point we're going to have to join together and get our message out there, heard loud and clear, whether it's in the United States Senate, whether it's in the United States Congress, or occupying the Oval Office? What do you think?
Well, I think you're right about that. We're going to have to unite somewhere. But this is my concern. And I think last week, one of the questions was, or one of the items that was brought up was the burning your bus movement. And I think I mentioned that right now I'm a burning your buster to a point, just at this moment. And I'll tell you the reason for, part of my reason for that is because, as I said, with the 27% party Republicans, it's 27% of Republicans, Democrats are only 30-some odd percent. I mean, they're not much bigger. They're bigger than the Republican Party, but they're not much bigger. Mm-hmm. And then you've got your independent voters that are 47%. Well, Bernie's taken the majority of those 47%. He's also taking a portion of that 30-some odd percent that is Democrat. So my big concern here is if Bernie does not make it into office, will Hillary actually be able to get elected? And I'm not convinced that she will be. And if it comes down to that, I mean, we can try to unite people and go, come on, let's back Hillary, because we can't have Trump in there. But we have so many people out there that are just fed up with that. I think we'd almost be better off rallying that same group of people together and stand behind Bernie as a write-in independent. It could be done as a write-in. There's only a few states that don't write in. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, unless we know that we can do that, then I guess the best option we're going to have is try to rally people behind her.
Mm-hmm. And
so it's going to be a tough one.
Right, and that's what I was about to ask. If that be the case, let's look at the Democratic Party. I'm not sure that they are listening to the voters. And I feel that the same problem that the Republican Party is having, the Democratic Party is having and have had for a long time, but now as a result of Bernie and a lot of those who have realized that our voices can be heard, we can make a change, or we can make a difference. Because we know that for years the Democratic Party has really been the party of taking people for granted, whereas the Republican Party really just didn't give a damn. So now we have two parties on the opposite end. Now we have the opportunity to bring in a new party or new parties, and I venture to say that if there was a third party candidate running, such as Bernie, I really feel that he could actually beat Clinton and Trump when we look at the specifics. Because if we go with the numbers that you just dictated based on the percentages, I think that we have a chance. Now the question is, are we willing to risk that chance? And I know we're joined by Aaron, which he's not going to be able to chime in. He's going to listen tonight. Dave Lamont is out there, and I believe Nick is in. So, Deb, what do you think about this third point? And I'm not talking about for the sake of talking about it. I'm talking about if there's going to actually be a third party run, I think it's either now or never, because there's not going to be any difference between now and 2018 or now and 2020. Now's the time, in my opinion. What do you think? We're talking right now about Trump. Would he be in the best position to defend women and minorities? Then we'll go to Hillary, and then we'll go to Bernie. I'll let you answer that first, Dave. Deb, I'm sorry, before I bring the other guests in.
Okay, so as far as the third party goes, you're right. This is an optimal time to do it. I think, but if it doesn't happen this time, I don't think it's a never thing. I think we are just that much closer to it, because the more millennials we have coming into voting age, there's still a lot out there that are still Bernie, but they're just not old enough to vote for him right now. Mm-hmm. And I think you're going to see it within the next 4 to 8 years. I think you will see a third party. Now, Jill Stein is of the Green Party, and she always runs. I mean, she runs all the time. But the thing is with Jill Stein is she's focused on the Green part, and only the Green part. And that's what's been so unique about Bernie Sanders, is that he is focused on the whole and how it interacts. He's focused on the climate and the suffrage of the people and the economics and how it all interacts. So that brings in all these fragmented pieces of this independence. So if you're going to do it, you're going to have to find somebody that can bring all those fragments in and put them together, just like Bernie has. Mm-hmm. Is there anybody else out there right now that could do that? Maybe Elizabeth Warren. Will she run? I don't know. It doesn't sound like she's really wanting to.
Right.
So unless you can find somebody or find a way to bring a Jill Stein into it and have her expand her platform so that it does incorporate all these people, you might not see it happen this time, but I think we're headed there. And I think if Bernie had not already promised not to run, I think this would have been I think he would have gotten elected on an independent platform.
Right.
Too.
Right. But
and then as far as Trump goes, there's no way he can represent any of us. I don't even think he can represent the American people, let alone minorities and women. Mm-hmm. First of all, he's a narcissistic psychopath. I'm sorry, but he is. He's a sociopath. Mm-hmm. And I think the only thing he's in this for is for show and power. Unless, again, because I think we discussed this too, is I keep looking at it like maybe there's some kind of an underlying ulterior motive. Maybe, he was always a Clinton supporter. Maybe he's in this to try to break things up.
Well, right. Dave Lamont, we talked last week, and you so eloquently prefaced this about are you for the man, are you for the message, or are you a part of the movement? So if we take Trump, okay, and look at his message and look at what he's trying to do. We know what the country says it stands for. We know what the vast majority of people believe in. When we look at Trump, would he be in the best position, or would he not be in the best interest to fight for the rights of women and minorities, in your opinion? Dave Lamont.
He is certainly going to tell you he is, because if there's one thing that's consistent from Donald Trump to Mitt Romney to Paul Ryan, is that Republicans cannot run on the issues that they actually believe in. So they have to lie to us. So you're going to see, now that Donald Trump is the presumptive nominee, you're going to see him very friendly and very open to things. Case in point, I know it's a little off topic, but case in point, minimum wage. Well, actually, I don't think it's off topic too much.
No, you're fine, Dave. You're fine.
Donald Trump said during the primary, I think it was back in March, he said that we can't raise minimum wage because minimum wage is too high right now. American wages are too high. The day after Ted Cruz dropped out of the race, Donald Trump was asked again about minimum wage, and he says that he is open to the idea. So, yes, Donald Trump is going to tell you that he is going to be great for women, great for, as he puts it, the blacks, great for the Hispanics, but you've got to think to yourself, how can he prove that he's going to be like that to those groups, to any group? How are we going to prove that he can do any of the things or stand for any of the things that he said? He has no record to run on. It's his word against his word. And in my opinion, he can say or do anything, and we have no clue what it's going to mean. So no, Donald Trump is actually not going to be good for minorities, but he's going to say.
Right. And Dave, which you bring me to one of the points that I was going to make. Trump, because he is a deceptive candidate, number one. Number two, he's extremely good at being deceptive. So now that it's just him for the Republican portion or the nominee, there are a lot of things that he can say to deceive some of these maybe young, inexperienced millennials, maybe some of these older people who really don't like Hillary. And they say, well, at least this, because remember, he's deceptive. We know that he lies, but he's still good at being deceptive. Hillary lies, and we know that she lies, but we treat her differently than we do Trump. So I'm worried about how much time is going to be spent between Bernie and Hillary when somebody should be focusing on Trump, because I've said it before, I'll say it again. Of all the individuals that I have seen run for the office of the president, he is the most unorthodox and most unpredictable candidate that it is. Do you feel that will have any effect on June when it comes to the Democratic nominee and how much time they wasted? Dave Lamont.
No, I don't think so, because if there's one other thing that Americans have in large supply is impatience. That's why we have things like the October surprise. This is why Trey Gowdy's political action committee that he has in Congress, called the Benghazi Committee, is not going to release anything until they are certain that Hillary Clinton is the nominee, and they're going to wait until about October. And then he's going to go around every news station and tell us how Hillary is guilty of something that she's not guilty of because they're a non-judicial branch. So essentially, I don't think Bernie Sanders staying in the race till June and Hillary Clinton not, or Bernie Sanders, because there is still a chance for Bernie to win it. I don't think that either of them are hurt by waiting until June at the convention, because right now both candidates are taking the tack of running in the general election. So both Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton are running as if they are the presumptive Democrat nominee, and they're running against Donald Trump at this point. So this is the smart move. I think this is what they need to do because they don't need to beat up on each other anymore. Everybody knows what they know about their candidates. Let's go on with the races, finish it out, run against Trump, and whoever wins, whoever has better message, will already be positioned to take on Trump, and nothing he says in that time. Because one of the good things about the Republican race being over is more attention is going to be shifted to the Democrat race. So we're going to start hearing those messages out in regular media, which means that voter turnout is going to increase on the Democrat side, which is why we've been seeing less votes being cast on the Democrat side, is because everybody's been talking about the horse race because we have the donkeys patootie running on the Republican side.
Mm-hmm. So Dave, let me ask you this. I think I saw somewhere, somebody else can jump in too, that now that there are no, race within the Republican Party, those Republicans who are registered can change over to independent or Democrat for the purposes of voting in a Democratic primary. And support Bernie, and then cross back over, after everything is over. Do you find any validity to that?
Yeah, yes, actually, let me, I want to go over something real quick that I had posted up on my Streams from the Center page. If you, in New Jersey, if you become a Democrat by May 17th, you can vote in that primary. May 10th, tomorrow, if you're in New Mexico. California, you only need to declare on the same day. It's a semi-closed primary. Montana is registered Democrat by May 9th, so today would have been the last day for that. South Dakota, May 23rd, and North Dakota is June 7th. So get out there and change over on those states that have semi-closed or open primaries. I think there's going to be a shift of independents from the horse race that was the Republican Party, and I think they're going to switch over and vote in the Democratic primary, and I think you're going to see Bernie Sanders do a lot better in those races. It's not statistically proven that he does better in open primaries, but when it is open primary and he wins, he tends to win by a larger margin than closed primary. So you're going to see Bernie Sanders perform much better in places like Montana, California, South Dakota, and North Dakota as a result of that. So, yeah, I do agree with that.
But, Dave, let me ask you this. But do those votes, do they disappear? Are they, I guess what I'm asking, are they misleading? Because if they are only there for the purpose of... Go ahead.
Yes. I actually did want to talk about that. A lot of talk about millennials and independent voters who haven't voted previously.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they tend to be breaking for Bernie Sanders, which does mean that in the scope of things, in the general election, if Secretary Clinton is the nominee of the Democratic Party and the Bernie or Bust movement vetoes Clinton, I'm not entirely sure it's going to have the effect that people think it's going to have. Because I think your Bernie or Bust people are two types of people. They're either people who are fed up with the system and genuinely want some sort of a revolution. I consider myself part of that group. Or they are people who are new to the political process and therefore they're unknown categories in this political process, and they may not even vote when it comes down to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at a case where I don't think the numbers are going to be skewed either way. We know that Bernie Sanders is not going to run as a third-party candidate, so, if he loses the primary, it's Hillary and Trump. And I don't think that Bernie or Bust movement is going to have the kind of impact I think that most people, most of your listeners think. And I know I'm going to be the minority talking about that, but that's how I see it.
Yo, Dave,
Dave, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, when you say that, though, and I know you were talking about the millennials, one of my things is that those new millennials or those new voters that you're talking about, these are some of the ones that are the most fired up, and they're also some of the ones that are not being polled right now because they have not been registered with a party. So they're not even figuring into these numbers.
Right.
So
those
are
point.
those are numbers that can be added on top of what Bernie already has.
Well, if that were the case, though, now, granted, I will say that some closed primaries affect those numbers. But if that were the case, we would probably have seen better movement in Senator Sanders' campaign, or at least his catching on. And he mounted one of the most successful campaigns in U.S. history. He was polling at 2% when he announced, and he is neck and neck with Hillary Clinton, less than 300 delegates away. So I'm not trying to diminish it. I'm not trying to say that their votes don't count. I'm just saying that in a general election, as it stands right now, if those new active Bernie supporters decide to stay home, then we're looking at a normal race, just like 2012, 2008, that sort of thing. If they have a reason to come out, whoever they come out for may swing the election to either, if they come out for a third-party candidate, they could swing the election depending on how they're voting.
Okay. Deb, did that clarify your question?
Yeah, I mean, it answered some of it. But
Okay, well,
I still can't help but think that you've got two different sets of numbers here that are going to show up. That I know you don't think they're going to make a difference, but I truly think they will, because you've got the suppressed votes that have been going on that we know of so far. We've got the closed primary that suppressed votes. Just in itself, that didn't get to vote for Bernie. Those are some of those are some large numbers. I mean, you're talking about a whole area of Brooklyn. Plus, you've got this whole section of millennials that aren't registered.
Right.
Do we have another?
By definition, if your vote's suppressed, then you're either not voting or not allowed to vote. So if you're suppressed by reason of a closed primary, those are open voters. But if you're suppressed because of our corrupted felony system or corrupt voter ID laws, any of those kinds of situations, those people are already kind of out of the system, unfortunately, and it's something we need to fix. But I can't count those kinds of people because they're out of the system. What we need to concentrate on is those millennials who were independent and not inside either of the systems to see where they're going to go. And that's been hard to trace because polling companies like to call landline, and most people under 40 don't have a landline. So the numbers on that are highly inaccurate. We have no clue what's going on.
Right.
People. I mean, I'm in that category. I don't have a landline. I haven't had a landline in 10 years.
Right.
So nobody
Me too.
Right. Hey, Deb, I think Dave is being very, I'm gonna put it this way, crunching numbers down to the lowest common denominator, and I understand exactly what he's saying. And I think what he's trying to do is basically clarify or rectify, what the perception is could be versus what the reality is gonna be. But you both make good points, and that's what this is about, a discussion. Because see, what we're doing is we're opening up eyes for other people and ears for other people to hear and see that this thing can be very persuasive, especially by mainstream media. That's why we're trying to have these types of conversations, this one tonight in particular, to bring light. Nick, let me bring you in. I know that you've probably heard about the last 10 or so minutes. We're talking tonight about Trump, Hillary, or Bernie. Who would be in the best position to fight for the rights of women and minorities? I'll get you to start out there, and then you can go to whatever angle you want to go to. Nikki Bedford. Did we lose her? I'm not sure if Nick is still out there or not. Dave, are you still out there?
Baron?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Deb. Good evening, Dave, Baron. I heard the last exchange between Dave and Baron, Dave and Deb, and what really is so apparent is the fire in both of them. I think Dave is just more analytical. Love your fire, Deb, and Dave, I think, is one of those realists who's very, very analytical and always a great logic. I'd like to dismiss Trump in a few sentences. I think it's, I say this with Bernie, and I'm going to say it with Trump. You cannot divorce the man's personal life from his public life. The man has said, in regard to women's issues and minorities, I think everything that's spewed from his mouth on minorities, Black, Hispanic, is the way the man feels. And given his bidders, that's exactly what he would do. I think he's no friend of minorities. I think in regard to women, looking at the man, he said 3 wives. He's bought 3 exceedingly beautiful young wives. I think I've seen where he's made a sexual innuendo to his own daughter. He's dismissive of women as either being fat or having a menstrual cycle or I mean, Trump's words by themselves, just by themselves and his life in general, will tell you exactly how he views women. I think he's one of these men who objectifies them, who buys what he wants, and then treats the women accordingly. I think his second wife accused him of rape within the marriage. So Trump, to me, I mean, I've got to dismiss any kind of thought on how Trump would be with women or minorities. I think if he ever won the presidency, there'd be some pressure on him to temper those views and do something. But the man himself, I think his core beliefs are exactly as we've heard. I think Dave is absolutely right. I saw the change on minimum wage, and I think we'll hear him say whatever it is he needs to say to be elected. There'll be nothing consistent with it. There'll be nothing truthful with it. So I dismiss Trump in any kind of value to minorities or women.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary. Okay, if you look at Hillary's general record, she's a friend of women. I was actually looking today at her record internationally. She really has quite a reputation and quite I think there was a global funding project that helped numerous women in underdeveloped countries. And she's been an advocate of women's rights in the sense of, family issues. No family issues, let me take that back. That's not true. Abortion, gender equality, family planning, reproductive rights, etc., etc. So she has that under her belt. I think that's what her appeal is to women. But let me tell you something that happened today. I was somewhere and I was working, and there was a television on, and there was a debate there were 5 white women, and it was Hillary and women's issues, and everyone from pay equality, etc., etc. Maternity leave, all of these things, and Hillary came out shining like a star. Yesterday, I was in a women's shelter, and I was sitting with a woman who has 3 children under 10, the black woman, and she had left a situation of domestic violence. She's already received in her lifetime 4 years of welfare benefits, PA, benefits. She has 3 children under 10 years old. Okay, this is the only shelter in town that allows women to bring their children in, where the children aren't then taken by the state and put into foster and put into the system. She's already expended 4 years of her 5-year lifetime guarantee of parents' benefit. She's got 1 year left. She has 3 children under 10. And the disparity between that woman's issues and the women I saw on television today are polar opposites. Where I take exception with Hillary is, she's got this general, there's a general perception about her, where she cares for women. I'd like to read from one of my favorite, Baron, Michelle Alexander. And this is what Hillary supported, and this is the result of it. We have 24 million starving children in America. We have 24 million starving children. To take out that number and understand what that means to the family, to the person. What is a starving child? Okay? I grew up in a poor neighborhood. On a Wednesday, you were hungry. You were hungry on Wednesday night, but the check wasn't coming until Friday. And your mother said to you, take a drink of water and go to bed. Okay? That's what starving child is. We expect that starving child to function, to go into school. We expect that mother to subsist without any kind of benefit. We've got, in his lifetime, 1 out of every 3 black men will go to a prison in his lifetime. That means 1 out of 3 men are not available for their families to work. 1 out of 3 men will come home and be a felon. One of my favorite callers, you know who he is, talks about what that is in trying to support his family. Okay? She advocated for that. Her husband enforced it, signed it. I mean, this is untold, and we do not want. She has no interest in these families. You can look at her record. Another thing, incidentally, with her international record, is her foundation takes money from Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates. Okay, those have the worst kind of women's violation abuses. She says nothing as Secretary of State because they fund her foundation. So I take real exception to Hillary Clinton. Okay, today women's issues are inextricably bound with family and children. You cannot separate women's issues from family and children, and she does. I look at Bernie. Bernie wants to go from the ground up, attack poverty. You've got urban areas where there's 40% male unemployment because there are no jobs, because the jobs have been taken out and put overseas. Bernie wants to attack that. These are all grassroots remedies for what is America's greatest shame is the treatment of its minorities. You've got a mass incarceration system that's geared towards, absolutely geared towards minorities and blacks. And then you have a system that witnesses, because of it, the systematic breakup of the family. So now Bernie looks from child poverty to child nutrition. A child that is hungry is a sick child. A child that is hungry cannot grow properly. A child that is hungry, has ailments. A child that is hungry cannot go to the doctor because there's no money in the home. There's no money for food. There's no money for health care. And these are the issues that need to be addressed. Not when we get these children at 17, 18, when we're putting them in prisons, locked up.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Housing. I mean, these are the issues that need to be addressed. And Hillary, I believe, is responsible for creating many of them. I think she perpetuates them. I think it's only since Bernie Sanders' candidacy that she's willing to even talk about this. And this is 20 years after.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I believe, if I heard you correctly, we know that Trump is just out of the. I mean, he's out of the question for me. Totally out of the question. Clinton. I just can't. I can tolerate, but I just can't. Do. Sanders. I believe that if everybody gave him a clear chance, and I'm talking about really take away the definition of the title of socialist, but we already know what Trump is, but people are still giving him the benefit of the doubt. As a matter of fact, he's knocked off 16 to 17 people. Okay, so if and I keep seeing people say our best bet to beat Trump is to run Bernie. Now I just posted on the live link that me personally, if Bernie did not get the nominee, I would much rather him run as a third party and lose everything, but because at least he lost by trying. Clinton, I just do not feel like she's going to be able to muster what it is that the kitchen sink, so to speak, that Donald Trump is going to throw at her, because this guy, number one goal is to kill, steal, and destroy. I'm not sure she can make it. Dave Lamont, what do you think?
Well, all of the polls, with the exception of Rasmussen, have Clinton up either in a statistical tie or up by as much as 10 points. Bernie Sanders does about double what Hillary Clinton does. So I think it is safe to say that Hillary Clinton probably would beat out Donald Trump. There are a lot of caveats and there are a lot of exceptions to that. I don't want to underplay anything. The big important factor is people need to get out and vote.
Correct.
And if you vote for a third-party candidate, and I'm not saying don't vote for a third-party candidate, vote for whoever you'd like.
Okay.
But if we have a strong showing for a third-party candidate, then what we're looking at is nobody directly wins, and then it's going to be forcing the Republican House the Republican House of Representatives to vote for either Trump, Clinton, or the third party. And in that case, I think there's actually a bit of credibility in the idea of that Republican-held House voting for the third-party candidate. Because they don't like Trump and they don't like Clinton.
Hey, Dave, the reason why I say, because my goal, me personally, is to attack the United States Senate and the United States Congress. If Bernie runs as a third party and all of those other candidates that's out there running for the Senate and the Congress get on his ticket, we have a better chance, I believe, of electing those people to make the change. Because if we elect Bernie or Hillary and the Congress and the Senate stays the same, we got 4 more years of the same problem we've had for the last 7 years. What do you think, Nick? And what do you think, Deb? I'll bring Dave back in.
Okay, well, the Senate is probably has a pretty good chance of going Democrat. The House, I think the House with the Bernie Sanders ticket would have swung easily back Democrat.
Right.
But with Hillary Clinton as the ticket leader, I'm not so sure about.
I agree with that, Dave, 100%.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, because, and that's one of the issues, I'm going to bring Nikki back in. That's one of the issues because some people, even in the Democratic Party, they don't necessarily really want to follow Hillary. So if she becomes the leader of the party, I'm not sure she can lead. Go ahead on, Nikki, and then Deb, I'll bring you in.
I think I read something today where Hillary is actually swinging, is it swinging right? I think it's swinging, where she's looking now for the disaffected Republican voters. So the prediction was as the weeks go on, you'll see her, she's sitting on this fence place. She's trying to get Bernie supporters to support her, but she also wants the disaffected Republicans. I think it's going to be interesting to watch Hillary shuck and jive in the next week.
You know what, Nikki? Good point right there. I want Dave and Deb to jump in because you just made another good point. Now, I believe that you should court any voter that's out there, but is she pandering to get these people, or is she sincerely trying to get people to help her? You know, it's just hard to tell about this lady. Nick, I'll let you finish. Then Deb, I want you to come in and talk about Hillary pandering to the right, and then Dave, I want you to talk about it.
Again, it was an opinion I read today, but one of the kind of progressive publications I read, and they talked about her pandering to the disaffected Republicans, the Republicans that will not vote for Trump, and but I mean, I believe everything Hillary does is pandering. And why this would be, I mean, I read it and my first thought was, oh, you flip-flop, here we go again, Hillary. You know, but it's going to be really interesting to watch that because she's looking at 2 blocks, assuming, and I'm sure she does assume that she has the nomination, she's looking at 2 blocks of voters to try to pick up Republicans and Bernie people. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch her in the next how she moves and bends with it, because that is what she does do.
Well, Deb, come on in.
Yeah, and Nikki, I agree. She's been pandering all along. With everybody, with the DNC to start with. I think I just put some stuff out there about how we've got all of our delegates going to the convention, and the DNC has already shut us down at the convention. They have not. They have put. I think it was like over 60 of her delegates into committee positions at the convention, and they're only letting in 4 of ours, I think 3 or 4 of ours, of Bernie Sanders. And he's already written a letter to him, a stern letter to him about that. Now she's pandering to the Republicans. She's going after their money because obviously she can't make any on her own unless it's with Wall Street banks. So let's go to, Jeb Bush's donors, and she's trying to bring in the Bush party. That just clarifies my idea all along that she's a Republican in Democratic clothing. And I said from day one that she didn't even have a platform of her own when this whole campaign started out, when Bernie Sanders started coming out with his and posting his online, is when she started reading it and started shifting left. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I'm for that too, or I'm for that too. And she was pandering to us a long time ago. And I knew it was a bunch of nonsense. And I said that when it comes time, she's going to pirouette back to the right, and we're going to see that center, maybe even right-leaning Democratic Republican candidate that we've all come to despise.
But let me ask you this though, Deb. I mean, when it's kind of like Barack. I mean, is a candidate not to reach out to any voter that's out there, regardless as to whether they're Democrat, Republican, rich or poor, because they're going to become the president of all people. Again, devil's advocate playing here. So why are people being so hard on Clinton when it appeared that Obama reached out to people? Clinton reached out to people. Look at what Newt Gingrich got him to do with the crime bill. I mean, are we being too critical of her when she's a politician? She's doing what she's actually supposed to do. Or are you seeing something else in there other than, or does it go back to that trust versus mistrust with Hillary Clinton?
Well, I think Obama is. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say. I think comparing Obama to Hillary is like apples and oranges, because Obama went in with a platform of his own. Hillary did not. He tried to unify the parties and make it a bipartisan stand, and he came up against total. I mean, he had good ideas. He had good intentions from the beginning. And he came up against a brick wall right from the get-go. Uh-huh. And that had to do not just, that had to do just as much with his color. I'm sorry. And that whole birther movement thing that did anything. Hillary has shown her true colors all along. We have seen her all these years prior. And she has worn the same colors on her coat the entire time. They don't change unless she thinks she's going to get something out of it.
Okay, go ahead, Nikki.
No, I was in total agreement with Deb. I think it might be, if Bernie Sanders weren't in this election, I think it might be business as usual with politics. Okay, I think it might be just that. But what Bernie's done, I think for the even Barack is a politician. I don't believe Bernie is a politician at heart. I think you've got a man that really deeply, truly in his whole life is a testament to cares. And I think what he's ignited, I think the great crime of this country is people don't care. There's this insularity. I was reading Cornell West and Cornel West and Michelle Alexander talk about it. And they talk about, when we look at Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell and Barack Obama, it furthers this. They were actually talking about affirmative action. It furthers this idea of American exceptionalism. Like, we can all do it. And that's bullshit. That's not true. That is not true. And I think what's happened is there's this great slumber. The passive racists can look and say, well, we have a black president. We have Condoleezza Rice. We've got this. We've got that. And that's true. And those people are exceptional. But it's not exceptional to the minorities. There are 80% of the people in inner city, urban, blight-ridden areas. But I think it adds to this facade of American exceptionalism. And so people don't see it, they don't want to see it, and they don't care, and they're indifferent. What's being done to minority black communities particularly is this idea of thug, welfare mama. So it's the idea is these men are incarcerated because what? If they hadn't done it, it's a choice. If they hadn't done what they've done, they wouldn't be where they are. Like there's a choice in this. When you have 24 million starving people and 40% unemployment, that is not a choice.
Nikki, I can, I can tell that obviously, this is kind of, and I'm speaking, it's like upsetting,
Yeah, but what I'm saying, but to finish the point, Baron, so it would be politics is normal as usual. We'd all sit back and say they promised this and they're not going to do it, blah, blah, blah. But what's different is this man has come in and running. And he's throwing light on every single one of those issues. And in the broader sense, he's throwing issues. So domestically, he's throwing light and saying this is unacceptable. Every child should be fed. Every child should have health care. Even up this playing field. On a global level, he's talking about what we're doing, how we're destroying this glorious earth that God gave us to live on by our greed. Okay? At another level, he's talking about the immorality of what we're doing in foreign nations. And bombing people by the millions and calling it collateral damage. So I think what's different about this one is that man.
Okay.
And so it's shifted the paradigm on how people are acting. I think he's also ignited this, at least part of this nation from the lethargy and indifference that it suffers from.
Dave Lamont.
Since his Bernie.
Right. Yes. Dave Lamont.
We were talking.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we were talking about Hillary Clinton. Is she pandering when she's trying to get these Republican voters or any voters? I want to go back to something. She gave a speech in Selma, Alabama, March 16, 2007, and this is my bad acting routine. I don't feel no way tired. I've come too far from where I started from. Do you remember that speech? Did Hillary Clinton got a Southern drawl, or did she make that up to pander to people in Selma, Alabama?
You bad boy, Dave Lamont.
Just a bear poop in the woods. Is the Pope Catholic?
It's like Bill playing the sax on Arsenio Hall,
You can't fake that. If you can't play an instrument, you can't fake that necessarily.
Right.
So he knew how to play, but Hillary Clinton is about as Southern as Ted Cruz. I mean, he may claim he's from Texas, but he's a Canadian.
And Dave, it's funny and ironic that because you're one of the most balanced, people. You're looking for a middle of the road or a common ground. Some of us are just putting it out there. We don't care one whether we just don't like Hillary, whatever the case may be. And for you to come out and say what you just said about her, I think it's the authenticity of the person, which is the problem that most people. Now, it may be unfair for her, and I'll give her that credit, and I may be too hard. And I've mentioned before, I'm probably a little hard on her, but I've tried to back up. But when I back up, I see more of the same. I just don't think she would go in and represent the issues that concerns the most to me, social justice, equal rights, women rights, and all those other rights that are. I just don't. I think her thing would be continuing to deal with Wall Street executives, all of those people with the money, fracking, the TPP. I think that's her agenda more so than the common people. I just think she's a devil in disguise. Anybody want to comment on that? Dave?
I definitely don't disagree with that. But like I said before, I think at the very least, Hillary can be pushed. Like, Hillary's far more capable of listening than a Donald Trump. So that's as far as I'm going to go. Again, if Hillary's the nominee, there's only certain circumstances in which she can earn my vote or get my vote.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, I'm voting third-party candidate myself. So I'm not, I'm not completely committed to her as a candidate. It has to be very specific circumstances that she's going to earn my vote or get my vote.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that you're outside of the realm. She's got a lot of flaws. She's an old-style politician. The trouble is, America is moving past old-style politicians.
Right.
You have people like Trump, who has a lot of that old-style politician stuff, but he also comes out with these things out of left field. You know, he swears, he gets into Twitter wars, he does all these kinds of things which shake the foundations of what a fair and competent race would be.
Mm-hmm.
So Hillary Clinton is just old-fashioned. That's all. That's the big thing. She's an old-fashioned politician, and we're tired of that.
Well, I just think sometimes the most qualified candidate can be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and people just, they just get tired of that person. And I'm thinking, that's what it is. Because, undeniably, the lady is qualified. She's intelligent. She has all of those things that any other previous president has had. Okay, so I give her, that credit. I give her those accolades. I think people are just burnt out with Clintons and Bushes, and they may even be burnt out with Obamas after this. I'm not sure. So we're looking at about 8:48 p.m. Central Standard Time. Dave, kind of put us where you'd like to be, Thursday, and if there's any upcoming caucuses or primaries that's coming up that you'd like to, for people to become involved in, and I'll let Nick and Deb do the same thing. By that time, we should be close to concluding.
We've got West Virginia coming up tomorrow, and Kentucky and Oregon are next week. So I think we'll be talking a little bit about West Virginia. There's something very interesting with West Virginia. That's big coal country, and Hillary Clinton recently had that statement that's been mislabeled as her saying that she wants to personally put coal people out of work.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, the truth of that statement was, and if you listen to the whole thing, she basically said that coal is being phased out, whether we like it or not, and we have to do something to help coal miners, and that's what she wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it was misinterpreted and played by the right as Hillary's killing coal, and as my troll Jody would say, that's killing jobs, coal keeps the lights on, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That could give Bernie Sanders a bump in the election, even though he's actually further to the left than Hillary Clinton is on coal. It's just his media blackout may actually work in his favor in West Virginia, which Clinton probably would have clinched otherwise.
Uh-huh.
I think that may put that in competition. So that's going to be very interesting tomorrow, possibly.
Right.
I think, Dave, I don't know if you saw, she also suggested putting Bill Clinton, her husband,
as
the kind of ambassador to find the workers' jobs.
Yeah, her job star. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, her job star. I thought, the man that really is responsible, we're going to put him in to fix it, I said a couple of that one. I thought that was a great success.
West Virginia could be very interesting, Nikki. Keep an eye out there for those results tomorrow.
Yeah. Hey, I got to say, you guys are talking about West Virginia. I've got a question because I was worried about this. I saw this today that I saw somewhere that they're saying that Hillary only needs 17% to get the nomination, and that and that there's probably enough in Virginia that would do that. Now, are they talking about with superdelegates, or are they just talking about?
No, Hillary Clinton. I only talk about pledged delegates because the superdelegates don't count until they vote. And in terms of pledged delegates, she needs 600 of these pledged delegates to clinch the nomination, a little over 600. That's over 50%, almost 60%. It's not impossible. And West Virginia is 29 delegates. So in no way, shape, or form is West Virginia, nor Kentucky, nor Oregon going to determine. Nothing in May is going to do it. Even if Clinton won 100% of those votes, she still would not have the required delegates. So don't listen to anything This thing goes out till June unless Bernie decides otherwise.
Okay, and that's
Dave,
what
I
I
wish
was
you were
thinking. That when the way that they put it, it sounded like I missed something somewhere. It's like, no, wait a minute, I didn't think I missed those
Because
numbers.
they're counting the super delegates in.
Right.
And if you count the ones that said that they're going to vote for Clinton, she's at 2,228. So she's around 160 delegates away if you include super delegates, which you've never, ever done since they've instituted super delegates. So don't believe what they said. The difference between the two is less than 300. Yeah, the difference between the two is less than 300 delegates. If Bernie can actually do well in California and New Jersey next month, he actually could tie her, and he can prevent her from getting the pledged delegates.
But Dave, Deb, you're part of that. You're part of that delegate group. I mean, what do you think based on what Dave is saying? Because I'm not sure how much communication is going on with delegates. I'm not sure how glued they are since this is so unprecedented. But I mean, are you hearing any talks about any of this information that Dave just discussed, Deb?
I am. We've actually heard about, like, here in Missouri, Hillary didn't have near the delegates show up. She didn't have near the delegates that we got. But Missouri operates, my understanding is Missouri operates a little bit different. She won't actually lose delegates unless they don't show up to Philadelphia. And so what happened at the state level doesn't matter. Now, in other states, I think that is different. I think that he can actually pick up delegates like he did in Washington and Nevada and stuff. But it's not the same here.
Yeah, I'd like to address what she's saying there when she gets done. Go ahead.
Yeah, but my concern right now, though, is, and I think I posted out there on the page, is that what the DNC is now doing, because they're already preparing for the convention, is they are putting Hillary delegates into all the committee positions. They have only put like 3 or 4 of Bernie's delegates into those committee positions. And that is not right. If he has like 40, 50, 60%, he should have 40, 50, 60% representation at the convention in those committees. That is an issue with me. And that right there ties me back to the idea that it just validates for me that it's all been rigged with between Hillary and the DNC.
You know, Deb, I was reading today that she's appointed 2 allies, Connecticut governor and a former Atlanta mayor to head the platform committee. And then she's actually named, what's his name, Barney Frank, who's a known Sanders antagonist, to the Rules Committee. He's an antagonist. He's going to head the Rules Committee. I mean, she is not preparing for at all for Bernie to have a voice at that convention, and I think that's going to be trouble. I think that's going to be.
Bernie sent him a 2-page letter, and I mean, it was pretty strong and standing that he wasn't going to put up with it. And I'll guarantee them they can do whatever they want to, but when we get up there to Philadelphia, they're going to be hearing some voices, and they're not going to like it.
But now let me ask you this, Deb. You get up there, you start having those voices. They look at it as being antagonistic, and then they throw you out. I mean, because I don't know how this. It appears that the DNC is trying their best to rig what's going on. We know that. So, Dave Lamont, Nikki, we're looking at about 5 minutes. We always get to the very important. I mean, this stuff just goes by so quick. We started out talking, and we'll end up talking. Trump, Hillary, or Bernie? Who would be in the best position to fight for the rights of women and minorities? I'm going to start with you, Dave Lamont, then I go to Nikki, then I go to Deb, and we'll continue this maybe Thursday night, or if somebody else come up with another topic, feel free to inbox me, email me, or whatever, because remember, we're trying to talk about everything that's relevant to what's going on in society. So it does not have to just originate from me. If there's a topic out there that somebody want to talk about, get it to me, and we'll have this discussion, because, again, the number one goal is to make a difference. Dave Lamont.
I think this is where we're lucky in the fact that there is less light between Sanders and Clinton versus the distinction with Trump on, the minority situation, which minorities, will get, who will be favorable for him. And I think in that case, Hillary and Bernie would hands down be better than Trump with the wind at his back. On the worst days, Hillary and Bernie would be light years ahead of him. So, as long as we get one of those two guys, I think rights for women in particular, rights for minority. Hillary has some problems with that, but I think that she's still a major factor ahead of Donald Trump. So that's where my stake is. Either one of those better.
And Dave Lamont, tell us where you're at Wednesday night.
I'm on Blab Wednesday night. I do a show on there. Anybody can come on and sit in one of the seats, and I just talk about whatever it is. I'll be talking about the primary results more than likely. That'll dominate everything.
Thank you, Dave Lamont. Nikki.
You can find, yeah.
Go ahead, Nikki.
I agree with Dave on Trump. I think Trump is just a sewer, and so uncredible in everything and anything. But I disagree with Hillary. I think Dave, you're so polite. She has some issues with minorities. I think she has gross issues with minorities. And my fear is if Hillary does get the nomination, it will stagnate. This is a pressing. It's probably our biggest pressing domestic issue.
Okay.
Poverty. Sanders is my man.
Okay, Deb, I'm gonna let you close it out.
Okay, and then I'm with you guys. I think Trump will be disastrous for us. Foreign policy-wise, he can't communicate. Hillary, I think she's going to be disastrous. I agree with you, Nikki. I think once a bigot, always a bigot. I'm sorry. I just kind of have that tendency to think that. And as far as the rest of it goes, I really think she's just going to have us involved in perpetual war. My family doesn't need that. Your family doesn't need that. This world doesn't need that. So I am Sanders all the way, and I'll be writing in. She's going to have to do a lot more to prove herself to me.
Okay, tonight's topic, Trump, Hillary, or Bernie, who would be in the best position to fight for the rights of women and minorities? We heard from Dave Lamont, Aurora, Colorado, screens from the center. We heard from Nikki Bedrick, Las Vegas, Nevada. We heard from Debbie from Columbia, Missouri. And we had Aaron Hopkins out there from Dallas, Texas. Tonight's topic, once again, Trump, Hillary, or Bernie, who would be in the best position to fight for the rights of women and minorities? Join us Thursday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Follow any of us on Facebook and Twitter, and so you can receive up-to-the-minute information on what we're going to be talking about. Thanks for listening to the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass tonight, Monday night, May the 9th, 2016. Good night, everybody.
Night, Dave. Night, Deb. Night, Baron.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.